I have always been checking the volume of my stuff. The biggest fan of everybody who watches our content. It isn't necessarily easy to create, not all the time, anyways. And I cannot tell you what we sometimes go through mentally, emotionally, sometimes even physically when doing research for some of this stuff. Emotions range from hopeful to emotional to angry to curious to downright confused, and then all the way back to happy and excited. We cover so many topics on this channel, from politics to religious extremism to religious history to reading crank mail from the aimed at the Freedom from Religion Foundation to Susan talking with well-known atheists about anything other than religion. It truly has been an incredible experience. And we thank you so much for being here with us and supporting us, both with your views, your shares, your comments, and when you, for reasons I cannot and likely will not ever understand, support us on Patreon. Trying to break stuff. See, that's what I do. There it is. So, again, thank you for that. We are excited for the future of this channel and all the content we're going to bring your way. Now, in case you didn't know, today marks 13 years since we lost a great man and one of the most amazing comedians and workers of social reform through comedy in the history of, I don't know, human civilization. And this is George Carlin. I considered going through a ton of details about his life and what he meant to me as I grew up and all of that. But I can only really think of one thing to say. Well, like, I don't know, 7 things to say. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits. Reason, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, I forgot to put the camera back on there. Happens. Welcome to Divine Disbelief episode 54. Lots of fucking news. Because there's a lot. It's been like a month since we've actually done news on this channel. And so today, we're going to stream through news more quickly than Donald Trump makes people stream or go through his NDAs. Speaking of him, I mean, come on, he's involved and it's all that good. So he has an ardent follower. A guy who has, since, I guess, meeting him in 2016, has become more famous recently, especially as he's begun to, and he started it with Rudy Giuliani and with Sidney Powell and his other folks, but he has gone on and really propagated this myth that Donald Trump won the election in November. Spoiler, he didn't. But that's not even a spoiler because I think we're like more than a week removed, and therefore the spoiler cap is wrong, is gone. But he, this guy, he reminds me of Hannibal Lecter. His name is Mike Lindell, and he reminds me of Hannibal Lecter. And the reason for that is because every time that I see him talk, and I have to keep up with this stuff just because otherwise, what else am I going to do with my life? Every time that he talks, he's always like, and he licks his lips like a million times. And I'm like, he's just waiting to get somebody alone so he can eat their liver. Because he's straight up doing that stuff from Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, just all the time, right? Well, apparently, if you're wondering why this is important and why it does anything with this, with why it has anything to do here, I just had a corgi sit on my foot, so that's going to be warm. He said that he was first approached back in 2016 by a prophet who told him that Donald Trump was going to win in 2020. Now, look, let's be fair. You got a 50-50. It's better than most. You know, and he's and if you're unaware, Donald Trump did not win the election and still is not president. I know that might be surprising to some of you, Arizona, but he didn't win and he's not going to win no matter how hard you try to hide stuff. And for whatever reason, Montana, I actually do understand the Montana thing a little bit. Not only is the name Big Sky Country, so that means people might not think there's land there. So you might actually be trying to hide things from conservatives, right? But also because most Americans don't know that Montana is a thing outside of Joe. And so that does make some sense. How can I find the ballot information if I don't know that Montana is a fucking state? Capital's Helena. I don't know. But Mike said the reason that Donald Trump has not been restored, which he said is going to happen in August, by the way, is because God is making people doubt prophecies. Again, to be balanced, people doubt prophecies anyway. Yeah, that is it's like one of the more important things interesting things to me right here. So his name is Pastor Hank Kunneman. I don't know, Kunneman. He is a self-described prophet, and that's how you know that he's a real one when he comes and tells you that he's the prophet. That's how you know he's the real deal. He claimed that former President Donald Trump has not yet been restored to the White House because God wants to make it look like the prophets are wrong. He's doing a good job. He said that he would win the re-election in 2020, as I mentioned, and supported these lies, literal lies, and he's the senior pastor. This you can always tell, and by the way, I have a certain affinity to this person because the name of his church is Lourdes, France, Lord of Hosts Church, and he is in Nebraska. Oh, there's white supremacists in Oregon. So he said no, you listen to me. Actually, this is a quote, by the way. It's to make it look like the prophets miss it, and for them to have petitions, and it's to expose, not expose, but it's to bring forth, not fifth, something at the exact time that it will be a part of the fulfillment of God. That's a real quote from a person. I don't know what the fuck it means, other than I'm guessing that, yeah, we said it would happen and God's totally going to make it happen. When he makes it happen in the future is when it's going to happen. So I don't look like a fucking idiot. So I'm just going to use all this really vague language. And he had a dream. So if you've ever heard of the Trump prophecy, it's a movie, air quotes, movie. This guy apparently had a dream prior to the 2016 election where he was like, holy shit, this orange motherfucker is going to be president. And as it turns out, he was right. He had a dream. And so he was like, this obviously has to be God because people don't have dreams that, that things, happen and whatnot. And it couldn't have been the fact that obviously I was thinking about Donald Trump while doing other things, certainly nothing sexual. And so he had a movie about it and everything. I do recommend, by the way, not watching the movie. Please don't put yourself through that. But the cinema snob Brad Jones has an amazing show episode on this. Link in the description or not. I don't know. I'll figure it out. He said he had a dream on November 4th. My favorite part about this is that it's November 4th, which is one day after the election. So it was fairly obvious that the election was already over with. And this guy just decided to have a dream. He's like, you know what? Nope. No. Donald Trump totally won. I promise. I had a dream last night. He saw that that Joe Biden was declaring victory, but then he saw what he believed to be the devil. The pastor went on, it says, to say God was working out the situation in his own time. Now, as we know, God is timeless, apparently. How exactly does that work? If you're timeless, does time even matter to you? And how could you work it out in your own time if you're timeless? Maybe I just don't understand Christian paradoxes, and I probably really should have paid attention when I was a Christian. This has been a game, and God's had enough of it, God damn it. He's allowed to play it out, but it's going to be a season of fulfillment now. There'd be a shift on July 4th. That's coming up pretty soon. There are quite a few. I put this out on Twitter earlier today. This came in a poll. Apparently 64%, some of that nature. I don't know. Fact check me on my Twitter account because that's obviously where you do all of your fact checking. 61 or some odd percentage of Republicans don't think that Joe Biden is the legitimate president of the United States. As Tobey Maguire said in Spider-Man 3, they don't live in this place that I like to call reality. They filed over 60 some odd election lawsuits. None of them went through, et cetera, and yada. The state of Texas, for some reason, decided to file a lawsuit against the state of Pennsylvania. And I was like, guys, just figure it out on the football field. It's not that difficult. Dallas will lose regardless, even to fucking Pittsburgh. They lost to Philly twice last year, so that makes sense. And Arizona, of course, came in. They got this cybersecurity thing, all this nonsense. I'm not really getting into that today. But this pastor apparently has visited Arizona and has said, besides it's fucking hot here, went down there and said he's praying with people and it's like, this is all going to happen by July 4th, which is interesting because it can't happen at that time for multiple reasons. Additionally, though, it actually is a month ahead of what Mike Lindell has said. Mike Lindell has come forward and said, no, it's going to happen in August. The Supreme Court is going to overturn this in August. Which one of these prophets is right? Also, the Supreme Court's they're not convening in August. Again, reality and all of that. Next. The one that I probably should have led with here is that he believes that, and speaking of Lindell, that his connection to former President Donald Trump came through what they call divine appointments. Says he's on a mission supported by God. Divine things started to happen to me, he said. I was picked out of 12 people to pray with 45 back in 2016, and Ben Carson was there. I'm guessing that he was using a pillow for the go to sleep the first time. I don't really know why Ben Carson is important in this conversation. He said that quote, this one prophet guy, super cool you kept up with him, bro. A couple of you in this room, a couple of you are going to become great friends and help change the course of history. Should point out that no matter what you do, you are changing the course of history. He said Carson was running for president at that point. And these divine appointments kept happening all the way up to where I met 40, who would become 45 in the summer of 2016. He said he had this divine appointment in 2016 when he went one-on-one with the former president. He said he had this meeting and he left believing that, quote, Donald Trump would be the greatest president in history. He wasn't, is the spoiler with this one. Going on with this shit is just like, I like it because, and I've been through this, I like it because it is completely fracturing the Republican base. Completely fracturing, especially in places like Georgia, where there is another election next year for the Senate, and in Arizona, where it's even worse, and there is an election there. And they're putting all their focus into things like this instead of focusing on the Senate election, which is great. But then it's also this whole subverting democracy thing. And I'm just sitting here going, hey, that's America's job. Okay, it's not your job to subvert American democracy. It's our job to subvert democracy around the world. Stop doing what we do. And so that kind of makes me, I don't know, a bit apprehensive about all this stuff. He said 8 in 10 evangelical Christians voted in favor of the former president. More than a few different prophets continue to promote the groundless conspiracy theories about the 2020 election, with many suggesting that 45 will somehow return to power later this year. I don't know how the fuck that's possible because it's not. Anyways, I'm going to be done with Mike Lindell now. I had more that I wanted to say about it, but it's annoying.
Thank you.
Yeah. How about you're welcome. I love you too. How about Jane Goodall?
Ooh.
Yeah, huge fan of Jane Goodall. She was the recipient of the 2021 Templeton Prize. And what she said is, religion entered into me. And this is a wonderful, wonderful article that I will have all of these in a Google Doc for the source material and stuff. And this is a fabulous article with Jane Goodall, with the interview with Jane Goodall. And she, by the way, is 87 years old now.
Wow.
And the fourth woman to win this award. It comes from Sir John Templeton, of course, to honor those who use science to explore humankind's place and purpose within the universe. Francis Collins, who's the director of the National Institutes of Health, and he won that last year for the Human Genome Project, which makes sense. Appreciate you for that there, Mr. Collins. And what she said, and it was answer to a question, what was your religious upbringing like and where did it take you? And so, as it turns out, her family had been involved in religion, and that her grandfather was a Congregationalist minister, and so they actually went to church and everything, and they were in the Welsh countryside, and she said that she had no compulsion to go and share it with anybody else. And in South Africa was the first time that she actually saw Christianity in place when it came to racism. And she said that she got into a restaurant, into all the seats, and they all said white people only. And that was, whether rightfully so or otherwise, biblically anyways, how a person would try to justify that, was something that she had not seen yet. And then she said that after she left Cape Town, she went, and her biggest thing, of course, is that she created this really great connection with chimpanzees and gorillas. She said, after I'd begun to succeed with the chimps, that's when I had time to pause, and that's when I developed a really strong feeling of spiritual connection with the natural world. What I love today is how science and religion are coming together, and more minds are seeing purpose behind the universe and intelligence. Einstein did, and my good friend Francis Collins. And this is a wonderful, wonderful quote from an amazing woman. And to say that she is relieved to see religion and science working together. Mind you, she's not a Christian, but rather something along the lines of like a universalist, right? And but to see that more and more of these uh, amazing intellectuals, whether they are religious or otherwise, not just performing science, but they are famous and we know who they are, that they are able to say, hey, I'm religious and I'm also working with science, and to be both at the same time. And she does say that she doesn't want to explain life entirely through science because she doesn't think that we can. We've got finite minds, while the universe, of course, is infinite. When science says we've got it all worked out, that's where the Big Bang created the universe. Well, what created the Big Bang? Our minds can't do it. And I appreciate her honesty there. We don't know, at least yet. And what's fascinating to me, she said, is the news being uncovered about these unidentified flying objects. It's really, really exciting. And the Templeton Foundation, obviously, the biggest thing with that is coming together, reconciling science and religion, which is something that has been very difficult through the years. And I appreciate that. She says the practices that ground her here, but also help her to open up nature, trees. She spends an hour every single day under her favorite tree and has a robin and a blackbird. And they hang out with her, and she has the connection. And you know what? This is great. I'm a huge fan of this. She's an amazing person, and her connection to what she sees as spirituality in the universe, I can get behind that. And you should be able to as well. There's no need to see anything that anybody says like that, or of Francis Collins, or Bruce Metzger, or anybody like that, when that work together and are religious and yet work in these amazing fields of history and archaeology and science. How about the Southern Baptist folks? Turns out they got problems.
I feel like you should let them see my face.
Oh, can they see your face? You're back. Oh, nope, there it is. Oh, kind of working there. Oh, there it is. There it is. This, of course, comes from earlier this month. And yeah, Sam, I've got to tell you, I don't care that about explanatory power or anything like that because I don't want to have that conversation. Do you know how important that conversation is when we get into things we're talking to somebody like Jane Goodall, who sees the good in the world and the universe and uses that to really express that to other people? Guess how much I care about explanatory power or arguing with her? 0% at all. In fact, all that's going to do is put up a border between myself and the person that I'm having a conversation with. I don't care. I really don't. And you shouldn't either. And if that makes you mad, that's not on me. But earlier this month, there was a recording from Ronnie Floyd, the president of the SBC's executive committee, telling SBC leaders in October of 2019 he is, quote, concerned about preserving the base in the denomination, even if it leads to criticism from abuse survivors. Quote, as you think through strategy, and I'm not concerned about anything survivors can say, Okay, I am not worried about that. I'm thinking the base. I just want to preserve the base. He doesn't care about the way that the Southern Baptist uh, organization and convention has handled, let's just say, numerous or multitudes of allegations. Sure, call them that. Well founded. Things that have a lot of evidence of sexual assault and sexual impropriety throughout the Southern Baptist churches. And Georgia Pastor Mike Stone, who's a leading candidate, he was a leading candidate to be the president of the SBC, saying a working group deciding how to deal with churches accused of mishandling sexual abuse had been bullied and thrown under the bus. There's this human factor, he said, where good people are thrown under the bus trying to do their best. And now we are asking the group to trust some of the ones who threw them under the bus. It is obviously Russell Moore recently he was the president until recently of the SBC, and he resigned because of things like this, and because, as it turns out, a fuck ton of Baptists are apparently racist. In case you're completely unaware of these things, Southern Baptists are at a crossroad as we head to the 2021. I don't know which direction Southern Baptists will choose, this person wrote in a letter, but I do believe these ancient words, the truth will set you free. I do as well, I should say, as Nathaniel. The future of the SBC will only stand if it is built on the foundation of truth, which I agree. This is something that is very, very true. Says the SBC is not divided on the priority of caring for abuse survivors and protecting the vulnerable in our churches. You're fucking lying. That's a lie. Because we know you don't care about it, because Susan and I, more than a few times, have discussed the allegations of sexual impropriety, sexual assault, and downright fucking rape in Baptist churches up and down the geography of the United States and also in other parts of the world, which includes Southern Baptists. And y'all motherfuckers don't care. If anything else, you move them from places like north of Houston over to Nashville, which you've done, and we talked about that like 2 years ago, and you hide them just like the Catholic Church does. And then you cheer for them and you say, oh, these allegations, no, that's just somebody that's mad. Why didn't they come forward 17 years ago? No, that's all you ever do is cover it up. Don't try and fucking come forward and say, oh, yeah, we care about that. No, you don't. Regardless of how some are attempting to characterize past action and future intent. Characterize? Me? Reality doesn't characterize anything. Reality is what reality is. Doesn't matter if you think that you're going to attack somebody. It goes on, since last weekend, the executive committee staff leadership has been in the process of talking with and potentially securing a highly credible Cyber Ninjas outside firm with the intent of conducting an independent third-party review of the accusations recently levied at the SBC executive committee. If it's anything like the Cyber Ninjas, I don't know, I guess you're probably going to find the same kind of thing when the police investigate themselves. Other recordings in there, of course, talk about, as I mentioned, racism. How are we supposed to respond, they say, in your minds, to people who say, why in the world would we have a conference and let people degrade the Southern Baptist Convention, attack its leadership and churches and all those things? How are we supposed to do that and say what they want to say and yet have the whole entire sexual abuse study funded by the executive committee? There's the sexual abuse thing. I was getting to the racism thing. How can you say that I'm going to come in and say all these things, but then say I'm the one that's funding this? That's a good question you should ask yourself, because you're funding your own investigation into yourself. Maybe you should do the third party thing. Now, some folks did come forward some leaders in the Southern Baptist churches came forward and said, we want you to consider three topics. One, what is your entity doing to foster effective abuse awareness, prevention, and care? Two, what additional steps has your entity taken to address abuse since the 2018 SBC meeting in Dallas? Three, how is your entity partnering with the efforts of the Sexual Abuse Advisory Group to address abuses? This is awesome. And you know what? I was considering while I was reading this article a little bit earlier. How is that different from anything else in any other organization, including the organizations that we find ourselves a part of if we are in secular communities? If we have people that come forward in our communities and the circles that we are in, and they speak about sexual impropriety, they speak about abuse, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual abuses that are happening from partners that they have, or even, and this is most important and not most important, but it relates very specifically to this in people that we know and people that we respect. I turns out I talked about this a lot the last time that I was on a show like one of these, and talking about people that are fairly famous and have had numerous allegations, multiple allegations, up to and including rape. How is it different? It seems like the Baptists, at least most of them, are trying to get it together. Trying. Yeah, motherfucker's got a history that you need to overcome. And I guess there's a possibility that you could overcome that history and you could come out better on the other side. But how is it different in secular communities? Because we still do this. We still platform people who deny allegations, who have not even come forward and asked and repented and asked for forgiveness, however long that might take. How's it different? And as we look at that, and if we are honest with ourselves and see that it's not different, what is our approach now? What are our steps to take? What do we do? Something a little bit less controversial. I am so excited that this came out in June. And you know what? I'm gonna open. What is this again? It's from Two Town Cider House. Yeah, it is from Two Town Cider House, which is boldly crafted in Oregon, in Corvallis. Actually, I'm gonna be down there in the next week or two. I'm doing some research for a video. Turns out Oregon's got a fuck ton of history of racism. Did you know that? And Corvallis has some of them as well. So does Eugene, Portland. But this one is a Two Towns Cider House. Fruit. Oh, it's a seasonal one. It's like Oktoberfest, but for not October and for cider. I'm gonna go ahead and open this.
Is it like a Prider?
It's not a no. Only fresh pressed Northwest apples, always whole ingredients. Well, I hope they're not. I hope I can drink it. I hope they're not whole.
Just an entire apple falls in your face. Is it any good?
This is what are they?
Some more.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh God, no.
It's not bad.
That's good.
The fact there's 8 of you watching this,
Right.
I don't know if I'm impressed by that or I feel bad for you. This is something that is not at all controversial. Faith and gray matter. A new study has found that there is no relationship between brain structure and religiosity. This is so relevant because I have been on Twitter recently. That's not abnormal. and have come across a lot of y'all atheists. You think way too highly of yourselves. I can say that because, agnostic. And now, mind you, do I think too highly of myself? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. And I'm not above admitting it. But I've seen more than a few different times. Guess what? Apparently, atheists are just dang smarter than theists. Apparently, there are studies to confirm that atheists. This is what I've seen. That's what I've seen. So if you're an atheist who thinks that you just happen to be more intelligent, there's a reason that I'm an atheist. Is I'm just more intelligent. Shut the fuck up. It's ableist and demeaning and fucking stop it. Because before I before I come to this study, I have the question for this. If that's the case, that atheists are just more intelligent than theists. First off, Barack Obama would like a word. Here's the question for you. 10 of 10 on the slurping. Thank you. I was a Christian, an evangelical Christian.
Gasp.
How? Not always, comma though, period. Because I heard myself, I just heard myself kind of like smack into the microphone. I apologize. I was like, I grew up in the middle of basically a cornfield in northeast Nebraska. And heard myself do it again. I'm working on it. This cider is a bit more sour. So it's cider than I had anticipated. Who and the grandparents were Methodist. Grandparents. I don't even know where my grandparents are. My dad, Germany, you know, but step grandparents in Nebraska. They went to this Methodist church out in the middle of nowhere, in literally the middle of nowhere. It's northeast Nebraska. I could probably find it right now. That's because it's like the only building within a few miles. But it was never anything where you just like Jesus and all that stuff. But I did become an evangelical Christian when I was in between my ninth and 10th grade year of of education, high school basically, freshman and sophomore. There it is. What's up?
I was gonna say, so you were like 16?
You know,
15, 16?
somewhere around there. Yeah, I finally had friends. But I was a Christian. I went to an Assemblies of God church in O'Neill, Nebraska, and I became a evangelical. Call me a fundamentalist, I guess, right? And so I moved from being a person who was not religious to a person who was absolutely religious and super duper on fire for God and Jesus freak, etc. And yada yada and all of that stuff for a fair amount of time. I was a youth pastor in Pembroke Pines, Florida, and all of that stuff. And then, of course, what has it been? It's been, was it 2021? So it's been around a decade ago. I realized after doing a lot of studying that I simply just don't, I don't believe it. One of the more difficult things in my life to do and to accept because it's not easy to accept. So without getting too much into that story, here's the question I have for, for all of you. And by the way, Sam, I appreciate the comment there. I really do. Um, the question that I have is, with me being more intelligent than theists, was I born more intelligent than theists? Did I somehow lose said intelligence when I became a Christian? And did I gain it back whenever I left religion? Again, how exactly does that work with regard to intelligence? And I realize that I'm turning this from a macro thing into a really micro thing, and that the one person is not is not indicative of everything. Yeah, and all of that stuff. But sure, but can you see what I mean by this when I say this? And when I ask that question, can you see how fucking demeaning it is to tell me that you're more intelligent than me? Can you? You go ahead and look. You're watching the screen right now, right? Or you're driving down the road tomorrow, which I guess is today for you. Look at right here in the screen, and just tell me, Nathaniel. Yeah, I'm more intelligent than you. And then every single person that you see that's a Christian or a Muslim, a Buddhist, a Hindu, how about you go to tell Ocean Keltoy that you're smarter than him? You want to do that? You can. Go and go and tell other folks that are pagans that you're just smarter than them. You're just more intelligent. Go and tell the what is it? Is it 227 million Muslims that live in Indonesia, and go and tell all of them that you're just more intelligent than them. How do you think you'd feel? I think what you're looking for there, Titan, is something that is known as analytical or intuitive thought processes and how we are able to take certain things into our mind. But I'm asking the question right now because this is like the moral side of it. When we also look at things about intelligence, how do we actually measure intelligence is the question, right? Let's talk about this. How do we measure intelligence? How do we measure curiosity? Any of these things? How what is the actual way of doing it? Well, let's talk about the SAT. 1927 Brigman wrote a book. He's by the way he's the guy that created the SAT. He wrote a book. I have this book. I downloaded it to my computer. I have it. And in the book, the guy that created the SAT said that immigrants to our country, very specifically Chinamen, Negroes, and mulattoes, were feeble minded, he said. The actual word usage, which is interesting because it's the same word usage that we found in the Oregon Constitution until 1926 and until it was whitewashed just a few years ago when the state of Oregon decided, I realize that we've done this whole overturning of slavery thing, and we now allow black people to come and live in the state, and we also, of course, have we also, of course, now allow interracial marriages and for people of that are Chinese and of Chinese descent to own property. But let's go ahead and just vote to remove this from the Constitution. And by that, I mean to erase it from the Constitution of the state of Oregon. It's true, by the way. They voted to do that. Instead of leaving it in there so that everybody can see what we did in our past and learn from it, they decided to erase it completely. What a white person thing to do. So that's one way to measure through the SAT. We can also measure it through this thing called the intelligence quotient, right? The intelligence quotient. That's not used by anybody to try to justify eugenics, is it? That's not used by white supremacists and neo-Nazis to try to say that black people are biologically less intelligent than the superior race, apparently. Right? Important to note, of course, that the overwhelming number of people who accept QAnon are white people. So Well, how do we measure intelligence, though? Is it in test taking? Well, does test taking actually show any type of value for intelligence? Does it? That's a good question to ask. Or is test taking, because that's the thing that we actually look and how we measure a person's ability to advance educationally in our country, does that actually show intelligence, or does that show a person's ability to recognize patterns and memorize certain things that are going to be on a test? And if that's the case, that we try and measure it by how well a person performs on a test, well, now we have to talk about socioeconomics, don't we? And we have to talk about racism, don't we? Because is it easier for a person who has access to education in their lives and access to better school in their lives and access to a lower student to teacher ratio in their lives to score higher on these tests than those who do not have that? Is that possible that that's the case? Have I gone off a little bit here and kind of ranted a little bit? Yes. But I hope that you kind of understand why. And Titan says, I mean, I'm a Mensa member. That's cool. I didn't know that. And an atheist. I'm smarter than most people and a non-believer. I'm also over 6 feet tall and have green eyes. Oh. None of these facts correlate with each other.
I'm very threatened right now.
Absolutely. Does my amazing beard mean that I'm better looking than other? Yes, it does. But yeah, you take a test, right? If I'm in an inner city school, which is majority minority, where we actually find the highest number of students and the lowest number of teachers, and also the teachers who have, let's consider it something like tenure, right? Or just consider something like they've been in the school for a very long time, or the people because we base this on taxation of property, that they are not paid as well as other teachers who might be right down the road in these other school districts, which are in places that have those, in places in zip codes, if you will. Zip codes. There is a, the way that they're able to like draw lines on the map and to like separate things by zip code for school districts. I think they must use like a red marker or something. I don't know, man. And yet we use that to measure somebody's intelligence. But does that actually work for intelligence? What way is there to actually measure a person's overall capability to understand concepts? Am I smarter than you just because I can read something, understand it, and then come in here and disseminate it uh, in an easier manner than others might be able to? No. That just means I have communicative abilities. That's it. Right? Well, this article came out in SciPost. Not the 10 Brugenkate one. As far as I know, he's still on some sort of sabbatical because of some things that he did. He made some mistakes. You know, I can appreciate that a person, because I have, as I've said on this channel more than a few times, made mistakes in my life, things that I am ashamed that I did. Sai came and he did some things apparently. I don't know that anything was non-consensual. Have you heard anything about anything was non-consensual?
The Saitan Brugengate?
Yeah.
No, I've heard a lot of speculation on stuff, but nothing that's actually founded.
Okay.
So nothing that I can actually speak any truth to.
Okay.
And I don't want to speak anything that's not truth.
You know what? I can appreciate that. Very much so. Because it helps me because we're in a relationship. By the way, Randolph Richardson, thank you. And thank you for upvoting the video. But what we have, obviously, you know, and he has taken the time to himself. We should not hold that against him. He made mistakes. If a person is able to do that and to own up to their mistakes and then move forward, I mean, I really think when he goes onto stage and tries to debate people, he's a dishonest motherfucker. But if a person is able to own up to their mistakes, I am as long as they're not like a Nazi. I'm not really in favor of like Nazis doing Nazi things. Anyways, this is from SciPost in the beginning of June, and it says religion and neurology often seem at odds, an extension of the questionable chasm separating spirituality and science. That sentence is so well written. It makes my little heart just do. Indeed, in attempting to explain religious faith, neuroscientists have often sought to highlight subtle differences in brain structure that might confirm a deficiency here or a reduction there. A new pre-registered study out of the Netherlands, which is posted in the European Journal of Neuroscience, and actually tried to do that, relating brain structure to religious experience by way of a high-powered, methodologically robust study on religiosity and structural brain differences. It stems from a myriad of methodological inconsistencies in previous research, including small sample sizes, improperly validated testing tasks, and conceptual confusion regarding the structures being measured. These are the things that we're talking about, right? How many ways are there to actually to do these measurements, and how can we properly interpret them? The authors readily admit that brain connectivity measures may provide a more nuanced and accurate picture of the brain-religion relation. Their primary aim was to, quote, establish the absence of the relation between religiosity and structural brain differences at a level of methodological and statistical rigor we hope to set in a new standard for future studies. This is very new. Also, Ernst.
I love you.
211 participants participated or answered a series of questions on religiosity and religious experiences and underwent voxel-wise region of interest brain scans. Such scans divide the brain into three-dimensional pixels. I know, I got pixels. Well, not really. It'd be better if I had a Google Pixel, wouldn't it, if I'd done that?
No. It's never better.
Which can then be compared between subjects for a particular region. This allows for robust confirmatory testing of hypotheses and provides a simple fashion of quantifying references in brain matter. Basically, we can see what's happening in certain parts of the brain whenever a person responds to certain stimuli. The authors found no relation at all between structural brain differences in relation to self-reported religiosity or mystical experiences, whether using ROI analyses or whole brain analysis. To conclude, they recommend that future research forego such attempts and instead focus on functional and multivariate approaches. What does this tell us? Stop saying you're smarter than religious people. Stop it. Because I guarantee most of y'all motherfuckers are not smarter than me. Okay?
Than I.
Than me. How would you say than I?
Because you would say than I am.
No, than me. Period. I'm not putting an am on the end of that. She's probably right, though.
I am right.
But I would love to be able to come out as a Christian and have y'all motherfuckers come up and tell me you're smarter than me. Demeaning fucking ableist language. Making me mad. Making me adjust myself in my seat.
I love you.
There's 10 of you here now. Somebody else came in for some reason. I think it was Randolph, right? All right. How about just Supreme Court Justice? Well, we're already at 55 minutes. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Not smarter than I am smart. Exactly. I'm smarter. People of praise. Leaders failed me. Christian group tied to Justice Amy Coney Barrett faces reckoning over sexual misconduct. Now, with this being said, if they're anything like Baptists or Catholics or, I don't know, evangelical fundamentalist Christians, there is no fucking way they're going to do anything. Right? Is there any part of you knowing what we know about what churches do and don't do regarding, again, sexual misconduct in their in the walls of their places of worship, is there, period, minus period, backspace, any part of you that says, yeah, they'll take care of this. Yeah, there's a reckoning coming. It's like in Tombstone, Wyatt Earp, I'm bringing hell with me. No, you're going to hell. Not Wyatt Earp. I imagine his brother's buried in Portland. Says this is in Minnesota. In December, Katie Logan called the police in the Minneapolis suburb of Eden Prairie and said her high school physics teacher had sexually assaulted her 2 decades ago when she was 17 and had just graduated. And it was a school that was a Christian school called People of Praise. He was 35 and was the girls' basketball coach. And while he was the coach, he lived in a place that was a building by People of Praise that was made for men who pledged celibacy. Which requires alcohol. She reported the incident in June 2001 to a dean at the school. Police records show that the dean believed her. And he relayed the complaint to other senior school officials. And they fired the coach. No, I'm just kidding. They didn't fire the coach. He actually stayed there. His name is Dave Beskar, not the armor the Mandalorian wears, where until 2011, when he was hired to lead a charter school in Arizona. In 2015, he went back to Minneapolis to become the headmaster of another Christian school. And he said, y'all motherfuckers know I did nothing wrong. Do we know that? Headmaster Mandalorian, do we? He said, she said, people of praise leaders failed me. I think they wanted to protect themselves more than they wanted to protect me or the other girls. And it is important to note that he was the basketball coach, the girls' basketball coach. The Washington Post interviewed 9 people in the Facebook group, and all but one of them were women who said they were sexually abused as children, as well as another man who said he was physically abused. In 4 of the cases, the police said the alleged abuse was reported to community leaders, in which, as it turns out, they had recorded statements and other documentation from the police. So they got in touch with the board of the governors there at People of Praise. His name's Craig Lent. Things he should give up for it. He said the lawyer's findings will be reviewed by a People of Praise committee of men and women, and that appropriate action will be taken. This is something I mentioned earlier. It's the exact same fucking thing as the police investigating themselves and finding, oh, we did nothing wrong. Shooting that guy in the back 6 times, totally fucking okay. I was scared for my life because he was pointed away from me. Same fucking thing. Do you expect anything to come of this? Besides another victim is ignored? Period? There, question mark? What the fuck ever? This is what they say. We're going to look into it and, we'll get back to you. I guess they're going to get back to us whenever Jesus fucking returns. People of Praise, he says, has always put the safety of children far above any reputational concerns. He's also chairman of the board overseeing 3 Trinity School campuses for middle and high school students in Minneapolis, South Bend, and Falls Church, Virginia. Wow, I bet they feel safe. New York Post or the New Yorker wants me to upgrade some shit. I don't even know. Read this story for free. I have a subscription.
Yeah, I was like, we have a subscription.
I get it in. I get this shit in the mail like once a week.
We do.
The New Yorker is
Can confirm.
just like so good.
We have a tote bag.
Look how it says subscribe. I just signed in. As I mentioned a little bit ago, on a recent Friday night, Dwight McKissick sat at a folding table in his three-car garage in a cul-de-sac in Arlington, Texas, discussing the role that race plays in a growing divide among American evangelicals. This was the one that I accidentally went to Amy Coney Barrett before I came to this one. I mentioned I was going to get into the SBC's history of racism, history as in, I guess it goes to today. For the past 38 years, he served as a lead pastor at Cornerstone Baptist Church in Arlington, which he grew from a few dozen people to about 4,000. A prominent member of the Southern Baptist Convention, which has 14 million adherents. And he's also one of a group of pastors who are likely to leave. That the organization won't collectively acknowledge the realities of systemic fucking racism. I mean, of course they won't. Of the 14 million members, many of them are, I don't know, they look like me. He thought that it would be hard for an outsider to understand why he joined the SBC with a long and painful history around race, which is what this actually says in the New Yorker. But he'd also seen the organization do a lot of good. He was raised in a Black Baptist church, and when he started Cornerstone in '83, the SBC helped out with funding. They gave him $330,000 for the church he was starting in his garage, which is good. Good job. I mean, you get help from them. Much of the racism he'd encountered in the SBC was what he called passive. But after the election in 2016, he felt the racist rhetoric became more overt. Was so unsettled by what he saw as a growing antipathy toward allowing women to serve in leadership roles. The tensions came to a head over the teachings of... You already know what it is. It's the only thing Republicans are focusing on these days because, as it turns out, they have no way to attack the president. You could totally attack the president, by the way. There's so much shit that he's doing that is wrong. It's, oh my gosh, easily could do that. But they have no policy. And so they're having to go after cancel culture and Dr. Seuss and all this other bullshit. And now they're like, critical race theory tells white people that we're the worst people ever. I don't think so, is what I'm going to say. And as somebody figured out the other day, I do have those books.
True.
Critical race theory emerged in legal scholarship in the 70s as a method of examining how the law perpetuates racial injustice. True. Recently, it's become a kind of it's a socialism, Marxism, communism, those words they use to try and take over the House and the Senate in the midterms, which they're totally going to do, by the way. And it's terrifying. The president, the previous one, tweeted that critical race theory was, quote, a sickness that cannot be allowed to continue. Please report any sightings so we can quickly extinguish it. I guess that critical race theory is like walking down the street or something. It's fucking Bigfoot. Like,
CBT.
yeah. Now, mind you, also the federal last year, if you don't remember, issued a memo ordering federal anti-racism training to stop. Said, don't you fucking do it. Prominent members of the SBC, including Albert Mohler, the president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, the denomination's oldest academic institution, have demonized it, calling it, among other things, I missed Marxist. My bad.
Aww.
Marxist.
Loading comma violence.
And anti-biblical. Is Marxism anti-biblical? I don't know that it's mentioned. Critics have frightened SBC members with the prospect that the theory could soon be used in public schools to indoctrinate children against conservative values. I should say it's more dictatorial, I think. During the organization's yearly conference in 2019, the resolutions committee attempted to address the tensions, putting forth a statement that acknowledged incompatibilities between biblical teachings and the academic theory, yet upheld the reality of structural racism. I can appreciate that. At least you're fucking trying. Unlike what you're trying to do with this whole thing of sexual allegations of sexual misconduct. At least you were trying with this. Hardline conservatives within the SBC seized the Capitol, or they tried to, upon the resolution and cast it as a threat from the left. Throughout 2020, state chapters passed resolutions rejecting critical race theory. I have read some of these, by the way. It doesn't actually reject critical race theory. It doesn't. It just says, don't tell my kids they're racist, basically. Okay. Your kid's not racist. Consciously. Unless, I don't know, the kid's name is literally like Mickey Clan Violence, right? He's like, I don't know, he's got a fucking white supremacist name. He's walking around looking like Forrest Gump's grandfather. And it was him, great grandfather. Which one was he? What was Bedford Forrest? So Forrest Gump. Tell me you watched Forrest Gump.
Yes, I have seen Forrest Gump. I've seen it numerous times. I just don't remember.
Don't let that kind of attitude fool you. She has not seen like any movies.
I haven't, admittedly.
She has seen Jurassic Park though.
I have. At least a few times.
He said,
And Die Hard.
yes. On the heels of the nationwide Black Lives Matter protests sparked by the murder of George Floyd and a lot of other people, by the way, as it turns out, there are others. I mean, we were chanting Breonna Taylor's name too, FYI, and a fuck ton of others. But yes, George Floyd was a spark point. The presidents of the SBC's 6 seminaries issued an incendiary statement calling CRT, quote, incompatible with the Baptist faith and message. That is right. We do not allow this teaching that racism even exists in our very much founded upon racism denomination. This, as can be expected, didn't go over well with more than a few black pastors. None of them have suggested applying the teachings of CRT to the church, but they felt that its blanket rejection was being used by white leaders to dismiss the realities of racism. Quote, y'all are arguing over a theory that is just trying to accurately describe the reality I live in. The Nigerian American pastor in Atlanta who left the SBC last July. It's like someone is bleeding out on the floor and these guys are fighting over how many pints of blood a person can lose. I missed that quote when I read this earlier. Wow.
Yeah.
Back in Arlington, Pastor McKissick read the statement with dismay. He said, it's putting lipstick on racism. The fight over CRT was also the fight over the future of the SBC. A cabal of reactionary, aging white men was trying to maintain control of the organization. And in order to hold on to power, those men were stoking people's fears of creeping liberalism. Definition unneeded. A spokesperson for the SBC said it was a sprawling organization whose members held a wide range of viewpoints. Y'all motherfuckers are conservative as fuck, and like 91% of you voted for the previous guy. Stop it. McKissick did write an article, though, and said, quote, we are getting off the bus. As the name of the article, I am not willing to allow them to dictate what the belief systems, definitions, and authoritative binding academic and ecclesiastical decisions regarding how race is to be communicated in the local church. Baptist preachers can speak and write and sing most of the time. I respect that.
Most of the time.
Yeah. And I have endless meetings, one-on-one conversations, meeting with the elders, letters to the church, pleading for the barest minimum of dignity and respect when it comes to church practices, said Jamar Tisby, the author of The Color of Compromise, a book that we have. He's a leader of the hashtag Leave Loud campaign. Said all I have been met with is gaslighting, denial, minimization, and ostracization. Boy, racism sure isn't a problem, guys. Several days after Pastor McKissick spoke out, he received a letter in the mail from John Rutledge, who's also part of the SBC, saying black people had, quote, invaded the church and that issues were, quote, beyond the Negro's intellectual capacities. Like 2-year-olds, they know only how to whine and throw tantrums. The SBC should bid them goodbye and good riddance. End quote. McKissick said, what I appreciated about Mr. Rutledge is that he had the nerve to stick his name to what a small group of people feels in the SBC. To a certain extent, that's what the anti-CRT crowd reflects. And it's on those grounds that I motherfucking leaving. That's what he said.
Just like that.
Exactly like that. It was in like, it even went in like little musical notes.
Singing.
One of the candidates that was, he didn't get elected. CRT goes against both Christianity and modern political classical liberty. The fuck is classical liberty? It ain't the university. What is, I don't know what classical liberty even is. These are the whole idea of American values. What even are they?
What the founding fathers intended.
Okay, cool. For only landowning white men to be able to vote, and also slavery, totally okay.
Exactly. That's what they mean.
Mike Stone, a pastor from South Georgia, called CRT a, quote, weapon of division. It should be a weapon of, like, addition. You get more people that way. Then Ed Litton, a soft-spoken pastor who has been involved in racial reconciliation efforts in Mobile, Alabama, said the fight over CRT has become a way to avoid talking about the need for structural change. We have to exercise the muscle of biblical truth and to extend compassion to those who have suffered injustice. The trajectory of the SBC will have proved to be anti-woman and hostile to race in a way that cannot be justified by the Bible. I just cannot in good conscience remain a part of a fellowship like that. How do you respond to that? You know what I mean? You just told a black pastor in Texas who grew his church from his garage and now has 4,000 congregants. You told a black pastor in Texas, racism's not a big deal. You'll get over it. One of y'all motherfuckers wrote a letter to him. Thank you very much for saying the quiet thing out loud. At least you didn't throw a rock through a window this time. At least you didn't drop napalm on them in 1921. At least you didn't come around and lynch them and come in and try and lynch him like you did in 2020. So long ago that was. So that's good, I guess. Progress. You know? Oh, but we can't do that because you can't be progressive, can you? You got to try to figure out how to deal with racism, which may or may not exist, I guess. I don't know. Ask Candace Owens. She apparently seems to know. And also, but it's going to be really difficult for you to attempt to address this idea that you got a bunch of issues with sexual impropriety and, you know, rape in the leadership in your denomination, and you got to deal with this whole thing called racism. What? Man, I don't know that Jesus has got time for all that.
He's got eternity, man.
Well, Yeah, but I mean, he's timeless. How does he even know what eternity is? I'm going to get through these other things in like 5 minutes.
Are you though?
I will.
Do you swear?
Yeah. So the Justice Department, the Joe Biden one, by the way, says it can defend religious schools' exemption from anti-LGBTQ discrimination laws. That's fucking great. Fuck you, Merrick Garland and Joe Biden. What a great, standing there in front of, say, you got your pride flag behind you, and you got the White House is lit up and all this shit. And congratulations on being the one that can say that you're the one that convinced Obama to do the whole marriage equality thing. Well, congratulations. You're really great now, and your Justice Department is really fucking great at discriminating against LGBTQ people. Good job. Marriage equality and all that. Hashtag mission accomplished. Fucking bigoted pieces of shit. Transition from religious to spiritual among young people impacts black culture. This is from the Fayetteville Observer. And I'm going to put this one on the Twitters because you need to read it. This is one of the more, if you ever wonder why aren't there more black people that are atheists? Susan and I talk about that, don't we?
Yep.
We do. How do we talk about inclusion? How do we do that?
You don't want to get me started on.
I'm kind of like,
He's like, if you only want to get through this in 5 minutes, you don't want to get me started on that.
well, I have, and Randolph, I just read your message, and I usually set the volume from where I'm sitting so that it goes up and it's every once in a while it hits the yellow. And I mean, I could turn it up more if you want. I don't know how it's going to look. Or look. I can see sound.
That was my spooky sound for the day.
The shift, which is mainly within younger generations towards spirituality rather than religiosity, is seen there in Fayetteville. Kelly W. Taylor is the chaplain and vice president of religious life and community engagement at Methodist University, said church research suggests a shift among younger black Christians from being religious to being spiritual, when religion is defined as adhering to a specific set of organized beliefs and practices, while spirituality suggests a more individual approach to faith and practice. When we talk about religiosity, or what may also be termed religiousness, we're talking about how the measurement of one's religiousness or religiosity connects to beliefs, practices, and rituals in which people participate. With spirituality, people are searching for the sacred to try to find meaning in life, and they're trusting in some higher power. Oh, thanks, Sam. Oh, okay. There we go. I will do that. So we'll do this right there. That will be higher. I guarantee it. They're weary of prayer without action and scripture study that ignores the central message of the gospel that says you cannot say you love God and hate your brother or sister. And they want to engage the message of biblical prophets who were social critics. What I observe more is more African American young people finding engagement and living out of their Christian convictions in civic organizations than there are on the front lines of social justice rather than in the church. This is showing that the social justice is happening on the streets and not in the pews. Within the black community, the use of crystals and burning sage have been seen as witchcraft or something sinister. A disconnect which they say can be traced back to slavery. Blunt says religion was used as a mechanism of control because they used scripture to justify what they were doing. It is not clear, she said, why those who use religion as a form of control would think slaves would completely forget the traditions from their homeland. Misconceptions of spiritual practices are also connected to misinformation based upon fear. Yeah, brag if you don't mind doing that. Believes that control and misconceptions taught about spirituality have actually started to have an opposite effect. Because she now feels the need to share, or I'm sorry, this person's name, her name is Het Harube, apologies, to share her spirituality with others because this is a birthright. It gives us more power, she says, makes us feel even better about ourselves. Did I just...
Uh-oh.
Yep, I can see it.
Hold on.
I saw it pop up on my screen over here.
Let me see if it kills it on the stream.
Keyframe frequency of 4. Got an issue.
Still okay on.
Oh yeah, okay. Oops, I just hit the camera.
On my phone.
I need to open the performance window and see. Oh no, it looks good. It looks good on my end. I just got I got the notification on the YouTube end, but I look at StreamYard and I've got 30 frames per second with no drop frames at 2400 kilobits per second. So I look good. I don't know what that's saying over there. Said that exhaustion with organized religion has caused millennials and Gen Z to look for a different path, which led them to conclude that spirituality is not negative. There are those out there looking, trying to find community somewhere outside of that, which wants to hold them, as you are aware, in a certain place. Cat, that... Ugh. Speaking of that, Cat, vaccines puts the question, are you going back to church? Now that more people are vaccinated, apparently nobody in Cat's family, many are re-examining their routines, pondering whether they want and are ready to go back to their favorite pre-pandemic coffee shop. We do. Exercise class, we do not. Or concert hall, yes please. Amid this investigation of needs as a weighty one, what about going and bowing down and sucking that big communion wine? Faith leaders have been anxious about this moment since the pandemic broke out a year ago. Jesus, I keep forgetting how long that's been. And the possibility that Americans in their secularizing, looting, violence, convenience-oriented country would spend a year away from houses of worship and decide it suited them just fine. Turns out it does. All year, clergy been like, y'all motherfuckers need to come back. I don't have any money. I'm losing all my monies. Decide to become virtual-only members. Flip between multiple virtual services, just quit congregational life altogether. That's what's happening. It has been pretty tough on the Catholic Church, whose canon law says very specifically Sunday Mass, quote, must be observed in the universal church as the primordial holy day of obligation. Yeah, motherfuckers just want me to come in there, give you my money, eat some kind of like, unless I'm Joe Biden apparently, eat some kind of weird wafer and do calisthenics. And I'm not all about it on a Sunday morning, okay? It is definitely not going to... One thing that I know from that is, yes, I don't want to do that. But also, I also know that when I'm doing those calisthenics, my phone is not going to track my exercise. When the pandemic began, bishops offered a dispensation, a divine pass from coming in person, because I'm certain God was like, here's the virus, you can stay at home. In recent weeks, however, some bishops across the country have been like, come back. I'm very alone up here. And they said they're on the East Coast, thanking God for progress the country has made during the pandemic. Call it that, I guess. said, quotes, many places in our region are enjoying a return to some sense of normalcy. Well, yeah, that's because we like basically elected not the other person. With all of his faults and flaws and everything, he's not that person. Said, we welcome and encourage the faithful. I guess all of you can come to return to full in-person participation in the Sunday Eucharist, the source and summit of our Catholic faith. But apparently, simply welcoming people back is not as simple as it would have sounded. Catholics, like Americans in general, are divided about the continuing danger of the pandemic. I know. Here's the thing. Half of us are like, you know what? This is a deadly fucking plague. And it's, kind of dangerous. The other half are like, oh, yeah. Okay, that was very stereotypical of most of them. But, the other part of our country doesn't think that Joe Biden won the election. What do you want from me here? And have been places of division instead of, again, multiplication during this intense year of disease and protest. I also protest the disease, which is why I got vaccinated, wear a mask. This is happening as the number of Catholics who said they belong to a parish is shrinking. Parish is shrinking is not an easy phrase. That figure dropped from 76% in 2000 to 58% in 2020, according to a Gallup poll released in April. I feel like I've gone over this poll before.
Probably.
Some of them find the return of obligation motivating and encouraging. Others said, why the fuck would I want to do that? You know what? And I feel like that's a good question. Faith leaders are between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
Sorry, Moses. And want people to back to Massachusetts because it will help their spiritual lives. We worry about people who are genuinely afraid of the virus and think the church isn't taking their concerns. So you're not! For the most part. Hashtag not all. But we're ready to welcome people back. And to regularly attending Massachusetts, most pastors think that if the situation persists, it looks like we think the Sunday obligation is optional. Mark chapter 4, verse 5. Jesus says, man was not made for the Sabbath, but Sabbath made for man. Therefore, man is the Lord of the Sabbath. I'll choose my obligations. Thank you very much. You can completely feel the difference between watching it on TV compared to being there in person. Yes, it's an emotional thing. It happens. Being part of the body of Christ.
Hey. That's where I'm from.
It's true.
I am from the body of Christ.
Oh, there you go.
That's an actual thing. Hey, guess what?
What's up, babe?
It's more than 5 minutes.
It is. Okay, let me go through 2 more here. Down in Lufkin, Texas, there's a bakery called Confections, which I have been to.
Oh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to live in Lufkin. You know that.
I know, but that was more for the sake of moving the story along.
Take a drink. Confections. Lufkin, Texas, by the way, is Deep East Texas, behind the pine curtain, as they say. Posted an image of cookies shaped like hearts and iced with the rainbow colors of the pride flag. Says, happy Pride to all our LGBTQ friends. All lovers of cookies and happiness are welcome here. Turns out, Jesus doesn't like that. And people wrote online that they had lost a significant number of followers. So they stopped following. And she said it has been very difficult to receive very hateful messages, especially when somebody canceled an order of 5 dozen cookies. My heart is heavy. Honestly, I never thought a post that literally said more love, less hate would result in this kind of backlash to a very small business that is struggling to stay afloat and spread a little cheer through baked goods. Well, not everybody in Texas is a piece of shit.
That's true.
Got 8.5 million reactions on Facebook. They said they've received, quote, an outpouring of support, overwhelmed by all the sweet words of support posted, messaged, and emailed. And it gets a little bit better because I lived in Lufkin and was fairly open about the fact that I was an atheist and fairly open about the fact that I was a fan of the black guy for president. Doesn't go over well. That Friday, the bakery shared a photo. They said that a line of customers was wrapped around the street and they had sold out of everything in their store. The business said, we urge supporters who do not live nearby to donate to several animal rescues and charities. Dawn, the co-owner of the bakery, who I do know, customers who came to the business after it sold out on Friday and Saturday were able to donate money in person. We're just so humbled and grateful for this outpouring of love. Makes me nervous to have, it's very humbling and makes me nervous. Those who know me know how shy I am. In the 11 years we've been open, we've never seen anything quite like this. We, my sister and co-owner Miranda, and our fabulous baker Felicia, who I know fairly personally, are just so humbled and grateful and moved by this outpouring of love. The last several people in our shop put money on their credit card for us to donate because there was nothing left to purchase. I like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's where not Kendall Rogers. The guy in Texas is running for, he's in Lufkin. You know what I'm talking about? The guy we follow each other on Twitter.
Are you thinking Kendall Scudder? Because he's
Yeah.
not from Lufkin. He's up in DFW.
There's somebody that's in Lufkin that's running for Jason.
Jason Rogers?
Yeah.
Is he in Lufkin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jason Rogers.
Yep. You can follow. We follow each other on Twitter. All of them, actually. Susan and I both follow him, and he follows us back.
What's the name of the bakery again?
Confections. CONFECTIONS. Bregwin says, I want to leave Texas so much, but my family don't think anything is wrong and want to stay. It's enough to make me question my own sanity. We left. Susan and I did. We knew we weren't going to stay there. She's the one that made the decision to come to Portland, by the way.
Was he?
Mm-hmm. And she knew where I wanted to go, but before even the opportunity to transfer with Samsung was even put on the internet or inside of the internal Samsung stuff.
I can't figure out how to copy the post.
Which one?
The post for their
You want me to do it?
More Love, Less Hate.
Oh, I can do it, I think. Oh, is that Facebook?
It is Facebook, yeah.
Oh, well, here, let me do this. I'm pretty certain I could just do like this and go like this. I'm pretty certain. Oh, I sign into chat. Nope, not doing that. Oh, well, I'll do it somewhere else. But, oh, I can see it right over here. Actually, I should be able to put things on our own channel stuff, right?
Yeah.
Wow,
you can do it.
that link is enormous.
Yep.
Oh, it's 430 characters long. So, nope. Terrified of the Oh, yeah. Welcome to volcanoes. We're going to have wildfires this year again.
Yep.
What do you think? One more?
No.
No?
I'm sleepy. Come snuggle.
Let's see. I'm going to put more of these into. I'm doing this one. I'm doing this one. I'm going to put the rest of these links the into the Google Doc. That should be in there later this evening.
Yeah.
But I'm going to finish with this one
Okay.
because it's in Portland.
This is about your awesome shirt.
My shirt is awesome, but no, that is my pinned tweet though. Please go watch that video. I think you'll like it. A church in Cedar Mills. It's Cedar Hills. This neighborhood is designated land to help build affordable housing for LGBTQ plus seniors. It's the first such to be in the state of Oregon. Portland area nonprofit and church are working together to help build affordable housing. Reverend Rick Soul is the pastor of Christ United Methodist Church and is part of what's called Reconciling Ministries Network, quote, which is a network of churches that are bold in proclaiming that what we affirm are LGBTQ plus neighbors and siblings, that we love them as they are. They've planned for years and is now moving forward to designate land on its property to help build the Saltzman Road apartment complex, the very first LGBT affordable housing project in the state of Oregon. Helps connect LGBTQ seniors with social and wellness services as well as housing. We have to remember these people are trailblazers, Mukosi says. Many grew up in the 40s, 50s, 60s when they were discriminated against, even more they are now, in their workplace, by their family members, by their friends, and their churches. Some are left with lasting trauma and disadvantages from such treatment, losing jobs, disowned by family members, and didn't even have, and we're looking at this is a deep dive that Susan and I have kind of looked at today, the right to adopt children. It's a $15 million, 53-unit housing complex on the church's land. The church has a lot of apologizing to do, Schul said. We feel it's important to be part of this movement, to be vocal about our love and our affirmation and care for people who've had unique struggles. It's funded in part by grants and money from the Metro bond measures that voters passed in 2018. It'll be open to people of all backgrounds, but have a focus on being LGBTQ friendly. If all goes well, it should be open by 2023. Susan and I have said we will never again live in an apartment complex. We might be able to make an exception. Probably not. So I have a question. I was going to do this quiz and everything earlier, but I chose not to. And it's for everybody here, all 10 of you and Susan, which I think is one of the 10.
That is.
So,
So it's 10.
okay, so I need you to let me know who, I got Ursula, Deadpool, Stitch from the Lilo movie. I have got Mickey Mouse, Wally, and a Stormtrooper.
Yes.
I think that's it, yeah?
Yeah. The Ursula one's a diamond.
Yeah.
Exclusive.
Well, don't, it's a surprise.
Well, it's still fancy.
Which, if you had to say, I want to see one of those, you don't know what it is, that's cool. But if it were to be Mickey Mouse or Ursula or Deadpool or Stitch or Wally or a Stormtrooper, what would it be? And now there's a 10-second delay. Well, I know what you're going to say, Susan.
Well, yeah.
I think that was actually in the box that's out there.
It's out there.
Yep.
Which I would have to go get.
Should really kind of like narrow that down to
Wally's out there
to
too.
the one. I don't know where the hell Mickey is. I think Mickey's like still. Oh, he's on the counter in the kitchen.
So he's in.
Oh, is he? Did I put him in the other box?
Or I brought him in here. In there. I don't know.
Or
Somewhere.
I don't know.
Julie says Deadpool.
Deadpool. We might only get like one. Wally or Deadpool. Okay. I think that's like, I don't know. Bregwin says yes, and so I'm just guessing that's like a Deadpool vote.
I count that as a Deadpool vote.
Okay.
took a picture of Stanley.
You got a picture of Stanley?
He looks like a potato.
He does. There we go.
Check out the
So,
Stanley that
well, I'm gonna mute myself real quick so this doesn't sound like horrible. I unmuted myself now. Trust me, I muted myself for a good reason. You did not. Susan behind me, she looks like. There you go.
I'm like getting
There you
blurry
go.
and unblurry and blurry and
And
unblurry.
here you go. A little pride Deadpool. How you like that? You got a little bobble. He's a little look, I just put it in front of my head. A little bobble. So if you're wondering, yes, we have all of these. And they're all really cool. So there you go. I don't, I realize that Disney and whatnot, they're just like capitalizing off of, Pride Month so they can make money and everything. But
Fucking eggs.
like we've already talked about this, Susan. Deadpool is pansexual.
He's totally pansexual.
Okay, that's what we have because we've gone over that. Like
just like how Loki is gender fluid.
Loki is gender fluid. Sorry about this noise, folks. There we go. I'm trying to. It looks too happy. Looks too happy. Thank you, Sam. Sorry about the noise. You're gonna get one more. This is actually Susan and I put a Twitter poll out like a month ago or something and asked if people would like to see like because we've got a few Funko Pops. Looked at it the other day, 700 over 800 now. Sorry about the noise. Yep, I was just looking at it. There.
Doesn't like them.
No, I don't either. Sorry, folks, about the noise, but do what I can. And if folks, yeah, I saw that break, and I was going to get into that, but yeah. And but we had this poll, and the poll said, "Would you like to see us have a couple of videos where we do like some unboxings and kind of show you guys some of the things that we've got? Because some of it is super cool, kind of like this is really, really. I want to get the trident.
Sparkle too.
Yeah, you can see it. Yes, she does. Look at that. All up in your face and do what? Mm-hmm. Right, that's the noise, right? I sound just like her.
You do.
Nice.
You do. I'm very proud of you.
There you go. That one's super cool. Also, it doesn't bobble the same because it's not a bobble. I thought all the Disney ones were bobble.
No.
Oh, all the Marvel.
Marvel and Star Wars are the ones that have the specific licenses that they have to be bobbleheads.
There it is. Yeah. There you go. And there is a Stormtrooper one as well. They're all Pride. So yeah, these are all really cool. And so I have like you've got so there you go, Deadpool and Ursula, right there. Ah! I can't. The focus is not working for me. I'm trying to get them like in front of my face.
I would sing the song, but I feel like I would get a copyright strike.
The
I don't want to do that.
The villain always has the best songs.
That's true.
For good reason. It moves the plot.
Exactly.
It also kind of creates the character for you. Because there's rarely a backstory for them, even though there should be. Poor unfortunate souls. Those of you that don't have one of those are the poor unfortunate soul. You're not impressed?
Damn it!
How much more detail would you need?
Ursula's gender is copyright.
I think that there are certain octopus that do change their sex or something. I know there's certain fish that do. She's obviously a cephalopod. And here you go. It's still in the box, but there's if I could get it to focus properly, because that's a Stitch as well. Wow, it will not focus on him. There, he's in the box. As Brad Pitt would ask, what's in the box? It's Stitch. There you go.
I can do the Stitch voice.
Yeah, Yoshi
That's
did it
really
really
the best I
well.
can do.
Yeah, I can see it on the I can see it's coming up on the screen over there.
Yeah.
Okay, Susan,
Nathaniel.
what else? I feel like I'm missing something.
Uh, it's time to go to bed.
Yeah, it's 1 hour and 45 minutes. You know what? I've been off for like we've been off for like 3 weeks. I'll see my way out. I appreciated that, X. We've been off for like 3 weeks, and so there was a lot to get through. We still didn't get through all of it, but the articles we went over tonight, as well as those that we didn't quite get to, will be in the description, as well as didn't I say I was going to link? Oh, I was going to link to the Cinema Snob episode about the Trump prophecy. So
Fucking Mark Taylor. Gam did an episode of it too.
did they?
Yeah. I'm pretty
Mark
sure.
Taylor, that's yes, thank you.
Mark Taylor, yeah. He's the firefighter prophet. He has a YouTube channel too. We've talked about
Do
him
you want to?
numerous
I know.
times.
Do you want to just go ahead and like pitch his YouTube channel?
I will shill for Mark Taylor.
It's-
No, I won't shill for Mark Taylor. That's disgusting.
Geo Sam is not impressed by the Funko Pops. That happens.
I would actually like to see paper mache versions of Funko Pops. Like
That would be pretty.
That would be
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. If you can
That'd
make
be a cool
those,
build.
that would be really cool. There are those that are the ones you paint yourselves.
Yeah.
What did I forget what they're called?
DIY.
Yeah, they have like a specific name or something.
We should go back.
Yeah,
Pops done. Get one built up.
yeah, because they were really nice to us last year. Now,
Maybe I know. Maybe they did. They did. I could have sworn they did the Trump prophecy one. Maybe I'm.
oh, well, even if they didn't, because we can obviously look and see. Even if they didn't, I know that Cinema Snob did. And you should definitely go watch it. Also, so the folks in here that Susan and I do know, and we love you so much for your awesome channels. X over Utah Outcasts, go sub to them. You still subscribe Patreon, yeah?
Yeah.
We are both patrons over there. You should do that. I like getting the emails that they are like come out at like midnight Pacific time. So I can't imagine what somebody on the East Coast is getting. And Julie Wine and Reason over there, Julie LaVoice as well, over there with her partner Junk Shop had a video tonight.
Yeah.
Yep, I did not get to listen to it. I was preparing for this. Sorry.
Yeah.
Who else in here?
Got
I
Geo
s-
Sam.
Geo Sam.
Free Gwen.
Yep.
Going back through Titan.
Titan is in there.
Crazy Catnip, who we have not seen in a while.
Yes.
Who I love and adore.
Yes, I think that I may have tagged them on Twitter in something the other day.
Yes.
And so if you do not or have not, Titan, thanks so much for taking care, by the way, of our Discord, which I go into, I don't know, once every 3 weeks.
Never. I think the last time
And-
you were in there was like 3 months ago.
Oh, I was in there not too long ago. I think I was talking to Titan, and so many other great folks. And by the way, my pinned tweet is my shirt that I had made. Susan went and got it taken care of here in Portland, up the Clackamas Town Center Mall, and she got the shirt made for me. It is an amazing shirt.
It is
My
amazing.
pinned tweet, the PDX secular guy, talks about the shirt. Please go watch that. It would make me very happy if you went and watch that. Like and subscribe? We got a Patreon?
Patreon.com/divine-disbelief.
You can go follow the Corgis. They're on
Corgis15.
Insta and the Twitters, or is it Twinsta?
Twittergram.
Nice, that one's better.
Yeah.
She's over there.
Facebook.com/divine-disbelief.
That's us. Other stuff too.
Motel Cowboy, PDX Secular Guy, Discorgis15.
Thank you, Sam. Join the Patreon. Love ya. Let me see. Can I do the intro as the outro, I wonder?
Yes.
You know that I'm just gonna start it and then like kill it halfway through, right?
I know.
Yep.
That's about right.
There you go. Love every single one of you. We will see you soon. Sooner. Not like the Oklahoma version, though, which is inherently racist.
Yeah.
Bye. You know, this is supposed to do something, and it just didn't. Racist. Bye.